Samuel Solder very generously gave me a year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon and brings you today's video. Zhulodok versus Florian, Cezanne and Saruman. A 0-lander, that's an easy decision. Alright, into fast mana with a Thran Dynamo available to us on turn 2. Into doubling cube. Yeah, we're going to empty our hand pretty quickly, but hopefully it'll be with a lot of mana intact. Alright, and we draw into Oblivion Sower. So we'll just start off with the Bonder's Enclave and not show our opponents that we've got the Mana Crypt. For the sake of transparency, where are we? I did say don't try too hard, no combos on turn 5, etc. because I've played a few games here where I'm playing against Tutor Tribal and someone did actually combo off on turn 5 and ended the whole game and then got annoyed when I said that we should kick him and play for second place. So that was the game over in about half an hour and it was a total waste of time. So then me coming along and getting down fast mana and getting a lot of mana down for turn 3, 4 doesn't feel too good, but I'm not going to be comboing off and finishing the game at least. Really difficult to get the balance right on Magic Online. Imperial Seal is a tutor, so fixing his draws for next turn. Bloodchief Ascension is excellent to get down this early, especially if we're going to be playing a Mana Crypt. And into another 6 mana Eldrazi, Conduit of Ruin this time. So drop the wastes and the Mana Crypt, go straight in for this Thran Dynamo and doubling cube. Alright, don't feel too bad about it now. There's a Mana Crypt that was likely tutored up for with the Imperial Seal anyway. And there's a Chromatic Lantern. Alright, and yeah, this player scoops. This is what I mean. It's really difficult to get the balance right here because everyone on Magic Online runs Mana Crypt. But it does mean that you can get too far ahead of your opponents. An Authority of the Consuls only affects creatures. It doesn't affect artifacts. So, yeah, Florian is really far behind now, unfortunately. Might just end up with a 1v1 here. Alright, well, we don't have the Bloodchief Ascension to worry about now, at least. Alright, drawing into a Commander's Plate, so let's just tap down all of our mana. There's nothing we can do at instant speed, so we might as well run it through the doubling cube here. 7 mana, go down by 3, and then go up to 8, so pretty much just gaining us a mana here. So, yeah, not really doing anything with that additional mana. Play out our Zhulodok, ready for playing some expensive stuff next turn, gaining our opponent a life. And let's throw down this Commander's Plate as well. There are means of playing colourless spells at instant speed for us, so once we've got that down with the Unwinding Clock, that will be pretty good for us. And we get another commander, Saruman of many colours. So see what the Rakdos player can do. Be funny if he went for fast mana into a Vandal Blast. Alright, 3 commanders in a row, Florian, Valdar and Scion into play. And then it was a Deadly Rollick going after the Zhulodok. They can get that for free thanks to the Florian. We know that we can make 8 mana, so we can afford to cast our commander again. Alright, and we managed to make a 3rd land by turn 4, so drop the War Room and run 8 mana through the doubling cube this time. Which means that we jump up to 10 mana, meaning that we can afford Kozilek the Great Distortion now. 1 mana shy of equipping the Commander's Plate, unfortunately, which could be relevant apparently, so we'll just run out our commander again tapped and see if we can survive another turn cycle against an Esper player. Mox Amber into play, so that will tap for Esper colours thanks to the commander. 3 cards in Saruman's hand. And there is Gandalf the White, so we'll be able to cast legendary and artifacts at instant speed, as well as doubling up triggers. And there, managing to grab hold of a Deadly Rollick. So once again, we lose our Zhulodok, unfortunately. Ugh. And then we take a hit for 5 from the Saruman. That will be commander damage, of course. Now seeing a Saga in the form of Okiba Reckoner Raid. So we've all lost some life now, which means that the Florian is going to have us lose even more life now. The Florian is going to trigger even further thanks to the damage dealt. And exiling off the top there, a Saw Ring, so we're all into fast mana now. And seeing a Sword of Fire and Ice for protection from blue and red, so that'll help against this thing. Won't be able to get through the Gandalf though. Although it'll have 5 power to 5 toughness, so won't be able to block with this anyway. Alright, a Shrine of the Forsaken Gods now, so only taps for 1 mana, but it's another mana for us at least. So now it's 9 mana through the doubling cube, and this will be 12 mana floating. So we could just go for a couple of Eldrazi here, and not worry about our commander for now. Yeah, let's go for the Conduit of Ruin, and we'll search our library for an Eldrazi. I think it'll have to be the Ulamog that can exile permanents. If our opponents aren't going to leave us alone, then we can threaten to deal with them. So let's go for Ulamog's Ceaseless Hunger. Just need to pray that by some miracle the Saruman doesn't manage to mill our Ulamog. So that comes into play tapped, which isn't good against the Florian because we're going to take even more damage to that next turn, but yeah, we'll get some blockers into play for the next turn at least. Oblivion Sower can be pointed at the Esper player. I think he's the least likely to scoop here because he's probably going to win this game. And we do have to play around early scoops, unfortunately. Only get into a swamp. Do manage to get rid of another tutor, a Frodo, and a Pact of Negation. So, yeah, pretty strong deck our opponent's built by the looks of it. A Mystic Remora from our opponent will likely refill his hand over the next few turns. And following that up with Saruman the White in order to amass orcs. And yep, no prizes for guessing correctly, turning in his 2 wizards against us. So we go down to 16 with a Mana Crypt in play. Florian going straight through to combat and once again continues to swing in towards us. Florian does need to consistently deal damage in order to trigger. Alright, and this time revealing a Damnation, he goes straight in for the Damnation, triggering the Mystic Remora for its first card draw. So that could transform the game in our favour actually, because we do have all those wizards that we're facing down and they're all going to keep swinging in at us. That does buy us another turn at least. Getting down a Bonder's Enclave in the form of, or Vesuva in the form of Bonder's Enclave. Alright, so round to our turn, we win the Mana Crypt flip at 12 life. Draw into an Unstable Obelisk, which, yeah, is fine, but I think we just need to maximise our mana going into the doubling cube. So we'll try yet again with our commander. We can at least afford to equip it with the commander's plate, but the Rakdos player may well have a Terminate held up or something like that. He is holding up priority here. Alright, we do manage to land that, so just have to hope that we don't get any hasty creatures swinging in our way. It's most likely that that would be a Rakdos player with haste, and we do have the authority of the consoles to worry about. Paying into the cumulative upkeep for Mystic Remora. Now a Jeweled Lotus from the Esper player. And straight in for the commander again with 2 mana held up, 1 card left in hand. Seeing the final chapter of the saga now. Return it to the battlefield transformed as a menace, and it gives vehicles menace as well. So it does enter the battlefield, meaning it enters tapped and gains our opponent another life. And down comes Florian again. Jet Medallion after that being cast into the Mystic Remora, so gonna draw our opponent another card. I like the Esper player being stuck at 1 card in hand, to be honest. Alright, we lose the flip again, so I'll go down to 9 with the Mana Crypt. Draw into a Liquimetal Torque. So I think we just tap out into the doubling cube again. Jump up to 14, let's go Unstable Obelisk. And we'll just draw our opponent into Mystic Remora cards, because we're going to lose this one anyway. Liquimetal Torque to draw him another card. And then we'll go for drawing 6 cards with Kozilek the Great Distortion. And we will Cascade here. So I might end up casting some non-creature spells here as well into the Mystic Remora. There's a Crackdown Construct. If we can get into either Basalt Monolith or Lightning Greaves, we can combo with that. We'll enter tapped though. Alright, and there's a Flash Enabler, so yeah, don't have the Unwinding Clock in play unfortunately, but we'll play that. And we draw 6 cards to the Kozilek. Alright, and look how many cards we had to go for before we get into another land. Alright, so drop the Arch of Orazca, and we're pretty much just going to go for a Zenith Chronicler at instant speed, I think. So we'll pass the turn there. Not going to tap out because our opponents are eager to get rid of us as it is. Paying into the Mystic Remora again. 4 cards in hand, about to draw a 5th. Lothar Corrupt Sheriff. Whenever a player casts a second spell each turn, lose a life, create a treasure, we will allow that. And then Lobelia, Sackville Baggins. So going to Millers again with the Saruman. And getting rid of Ugin's Mastery and Ugin the Ineffable. That will trigger the Lothar for the first time and make a treasure. Our opponent's not taking any life whatsoever this game, so has an absolute surplus of it. Okay, maybe could have had the Zenith Chronicler in already, ready for something like Lothar. Let's get it down here, because all we're really doing is holding up priority so that we can counter things. Skittering Cicada going to get a buff here, not that it matters. Alright, there we go. Zenith Chronicler triggering, so we lost out on a card but get one here. Mogis, God of the Slaughter, is going to draw us. It'll draw the other player as well. But it's pretty consistent card draw for us in Modern Commander, I think. Alright, that's an Urborg, which is more mana for us. Alright, I want to keep the Unwinding Clock, so we'll allow Mogis into play. It's just a case of seeing how long I can last at this point, really. Alright, so the Sword of Fire and Ice going over to the Menace creature, which can swing straight in towards us, meaning they can deal a total of 6 damage to us. Then we take a hit from this and we're done. So yeah, trying to get rid of us here. Yeah, the Authority of the Consuls doing work this game. Grabbing a Field of the Dead off the back of the Florian. Alright, Mogis going to trigger first. So we're going to have to get rid of the Zenith Chronicler here. And hope that we don't lose to the Mana Crypt. Alright, I'm winning the flip, so we do get another turn. Alright, and that is Rise of the Eldrazi. Destroy a permanent, target player draws 4 cards, take an extra turn after this one. Which is a really fun one to be able to play here, so... Drop the Urborg, that will have Shrine of the Forsaken, tap for 2 mana. So if we're going to take an extra turn, might as well flow all the mana that we possibly can. And let's go for the Unwinding Clock. Definitely want to be getting that into play if we can do the instant speed thing and play during our opponent's turns. The Cicada getting buffed. Mystic Remora again, not going to bother playing into it. So now we can go for the Fractured Power Stone as well. Try and empty our hand because we're going to draw 4 to the Rise of the Eldrazi, but we will draw to the Sandstone Oracle maybe as well next turn. Lotho is going to make another treasure token over here. Alright, and it's noteworthy that the Esper player is asking whether or not Eldrazi are artifacts, which suggests that he's got a means of blowing up artifacts. Maybe an austere command or something like that. So we might as well get down the Khan so that we can ramp ahead a hell of a lot next turn as well. Obviously continuing to buff the Cicada as well. And then let's cast the Rise of the Eldrazi. Do we get rid of our Mana Crypt here so that we can try and continue to play it out? Yeah, might as well, I suppose. We're only going to lose to the Mana Crypt next turn most likely, because obviously we do get an additional turn here. Skittering Cicada triggers again, we get more Cascade stuff. And it's noteworthy that Rise of the Eldrazi can't be countered by the Esper player. Alright, so that draws us into a Mind Stone off the Cascade, which will continue to make the Mystic Remora do work. And into a Rings of Bright Hearth we can make infinite mana with the Basalt Monolith, but if we draw into Basalt Monolith I'd like to combo off into this thing and hope that our opponents haven't seen that combo before. Maybe they let this through as a 2-2 and then we infinitely buff it. Could double up the ability on something like an Unstable Obelisk as well in order to blow things up. So finally, Rise of the Eldrazi going to resolve. This thing ends up at a 30-30 with Trample. And we draw into more big Eldrazi stuff, Calamity of the Titans. So we can wipe the board with that. A Desecrate Reality as well. So could get rid of Saruman and the Mogis with that. Anyway, can't do anything with the 3 mana available to us, so go through to combat here. And we'll turn everything in towards the Esper player. Try and get rid of him on our next turn, I think. Okay, our opponent just decided to take the damage here. I'm not sure if... yeah, that should see him gone, actually. Down to -6. I think he might have been able to survive there, but we do get an additional turn here anyway, so we'll go through and take our next turn. Alright, so Mogis triggers. I think we just get rid of the Crackdown Construct to the Mogis. And then Khan is going to make us a little bit less mana, thanks to the Construct going down, but I think we're still going to get a nice chunk of mana here. Yeah, we get 10 colourless mana. Alright, and into another big Eldrazi, that is Flayer of Loyalties. Don't have haste, unfortunately. Drop the waste, and we'll try and play as much as we possibly can here. So let's just tap a bunch of mana into the doubling cube again. So ending up with 42 mana. Let's go for Desecrate Reality, and we'll get rid of the Mogis with that, like we said. And we have put at least 3 colourless mana into this, so we'll get the Cascade off. Skittering Cicada, going to continue to do work for us this game, apparently. And we will get to reanimate something with this as well. So that gets us into the One Ring. We'll be able to draw one card with that. Not typically the type of card that you would like to see when you're at such a low life total. It's actually the first time I've ever been able to draw into and play the One Ring. A sudden spoiling until the end of the turn. Creatures target player controls lose all abilities and have base power and toughness 0-2. That means we lose flash. We could still wipe the board with a Calamity if we wanted to. So we'll allow sudden spoiling to resolve. We're on the main phase, so we've still got all this mana to play with. We gain protection from everything until our next turn, so our opponent can't get us next turn anyway. Alright, and it's just a Sol Ring on the second cascade. Alright, and we actually have a bunch of even things in the graveyard. I assumed we'd be able to get a creature off with this, but instead we've just been given the Realm Breaker. Don't have any Praetors to fish out with that, unfortunately. So we can go for the Calamity here and target the Khan. That would get rid of the Cicada, but it would get rid of our opponent's creatures as well. We have protection from their stuff anyway, so I don't think it really matters. Let's go for the Flayer of Loyalties. It's noteworthy that we'll be able to play on our opponent's turn as well, because we'll still have the Cicada in play, of course, and we'll untap all of our rocks. Flayer of Loyalties going to... We'll trigger the sword for our opponent, won't we? I think that's how it works, because our opponent controls the sword. No, I'm not going to risk it, I'll just take the Florian. And we'll definitely get down the Void Winnower as well. So that'll stop our opponent casting even spells. Sandstone Oracle to refill our hand. One that you don't tend to see in many colourless decks, but Sandstone Oracle is one of the few ways of drawing a bunch when you're empty-handed, so... Alright, Sandstone Oracle draws us a couple of cards. Our opponent's only on 4 mana. Let's get down that Mana Vault, and might as well just play the Burnished Heart now, I suppose. And then we can crack the Unstable Obelisk, I think, and just get rid of the creature to play safe. Rings of Bright Hearth, I'm not going to bother copying the ability. Could have done it on our opponent's turn when we had surplus of mana to put into it. So then we go through to the attack phase. We've got an 11-13 to swing in with, a 10-10 Florian with Annihilator 2, and this is a 3-5 commander, so we'll attack him with that as well. Our opponent having to sacrifice a couple of permanents to the Annihilator 2 on Florian. So deciding to get rid of the Jet Medallion and the sword. I do appreciate my opponent playing this out, assuming that we do have the game. It's noteworthy that the One Ring goes well with the Unwinding Clock as well, assuming that you've got the surplus of life to put into it, which we don't at the moment. I'm not going to do anything with the One Ring. I'm not risking missing something here and ending up losing to that. But we could definitely refill our hand with that as it stands now. Florian going to trigger for us because we've dealt a whole heap of damage here. So we get to look at all those cards. And we'll just exile Ulamog the Infinite Gaia for the fun of it. Alright, so our opponent gets a turn here. Alright, so time to see if our opponent can do anything here. He could make the Florian unblockable and get straight through to us, but we do have protection from everything until our next turn, don't forget. A Lobber Crew, 1 damage to each opponent. They don't have haste on that, unfortunately. It does eradicate the worry of a lightning bolt on our turn, I suppose. Alright, and there is Flying and Death Touch and Lifelink on a Vampire Nighthawk. I don't think that's going to be relevant. Our opponent was asking if there's a restriction on him casting a black creature. It's probably the Void Winnower stopping him from doing that. You don't often see the benefit of cards like Void Winnower, but they do really hamper your opponent's play. Alright, so the One Ring and Mana Vault not going to deal any damage to us, thankfully. Karn going to generate us a ton of mana again. 15 to be exact. Alright, and we just draw into a Demolition Field, so play that out. Draw a card with the One Ring, and I will put 2 mana into it with the Rings of Bright Hearth. Don't have to worry about our life total if we're going to win this turn. So we'll draw 2 cards to the ring here, an Eye of Ugin, and then drew a couple more because it saw the 2 counters that are on there. So there we see Emrakul, the Promised End. I'm not going to dunk on my opponent too much here. Let's just turn in sideways. I just wanted to do at least something with the One Ring, seeing as how I haven't played with it before. So we'll just swing in with everything. So we'll just turn in sideways with everything here. Annihilator 2 on Flayer of Loyalties. If we feel as though they're going to survive thanks to the Vampire Nighthawk, then yeah, we're likely going wide now. They've sacked their 2 creatures, but we could have done some shenanigans and made sure that the Cicada can get damage through. Alright, so just decided to take the damage and go down to minus 40. Appreciate my opponent playing that out. That last turn of mine took a long time, but it had to be done. We managed to pull it back from the brink there. Had absolutely no business winning that game after getting ganged up on for so long, but you can see why my opponents were doing that now. Hopefully you all enjoyed this revisit to Zhulodok. I wouldn't mind playing the deck again, but it all depends on how the views and the thumbs ups do, so if you want to see it again, be sure to support the video. And speaking of support, big thank you to the patrons as well. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.